Hello and welcome back to the Football Chat podcast. Today it's episode 151 and we're turning our attention towards the Bundesliga and more specifically Bayer Leverkusen and their manager Xabi Alonso. Coming into the season, most people expected Bayern Munich would be taking another Bundesliga title. They do it every season, and given the fact they won all of their first three, they looked like they were in a very good place to do so, didn't they?
They did, and I mean, we sat here and said, because obviously Dortmund have been dropping points everyone said, and we sat and went, season's over, Bundesliga's over, what's the point? They're going to win it again, just call season there. Yeah.
And obviously the only other team that maintained a perfect record as well was Bayer Leverkusen, winning all of their first three matches, and then that set up a very interesting tie the weekend just gone. We're going to talk about that today, we're going to talk about Alonso, and we're going to talk about whether Bayer Leverkusen are serious contenders for the Bundesliga title this season. Shall we start with Alonso then?
Yeah.
He came in I think, match day 9 of last season, around that sort of time, that October sort of time in the season. They were struggling up to that point, sat in 17th in the league, and the biggest problem for Bayer Leverkusen was they didn't really have a consistent shape. They were so open, so expansive, and very easy to play through. What Alonso did, came in, changed it up, 3-4-3, keep it compact. The gaps between the players were a lot smaller, made it much easier to pass the football, and that saw fantastic results. And we've seen that system continue into this season then. A 3-4-3, very, very solid at the back and deadly on the counter-attack. We saw it at the weekend, we've seen it throughout the season so far. It's how they can really hurt teams. And looking at the game, I feel like Leverkusen could have got more out of it, to be honest.
I think so. It's a really interesting thing because if you look at their goals, there were two really strong moments that kind of like, the free kick from Grimaldo is one of those where you think, well, I think if you looked at it, if you didn't watch the game and you looked at it, you'd look at it and go, well, Leverkusen just scored a free kick and they got lucky.
And a pen as well after that.
Free kick and penalty.
Two set-piece goals.
I don't think that's a fair reflection on the game. I think they... this is what Bayern do. It's even in the games where they shouldn't, they always get more than they should. And they stop Leverkusen taking all 3 points, which I think the argument is there to say that Xabi Alonso's side could have taken all 3 off Bayern.
Yeah, I mean, Leverkusen started really slowly. They started in their usual high-press system. What they quickly learned is you can't play that against Bayern Munich. They were getting frequently bypassed by Bayern. No real shock there. Came under a lot of pressure. Then Harry Kane goal comes in 7 minutes. I mean, a decent goal, to be fair.
It was a good header, but I mean, again, who's marking him at the back post?
Yeah, it's school ground stuff. You should be marking Harry Kane. It's Harry Kane. Anyway, after that goal, Alonso decided to alter things, and I think this was a really interesting thing to see because a lot of young coaches coming through at the moment, they have this really good system, and if that works, that's great, but they don't really have that adaptability, that tactical acumen to change things on the fly in high-pressure situations. But he did. He altered the pressing approach, encouraged them to stand off and not really engage as Bayern played forward, just sit deep, absorb the pressure. That really played to their strengths because it meant they could spring on the counter-attack a lot more effectively. Something more close to 4-4-2 possession, shape actually out of possession, which... if that works, why not do that for that game? So it was interesting to see how he was able to adapt his style like that, and that actually looked a lot better. They were able to win the ball back and spring forward on the counter, which we know they're so deadly due to the players they've got in those high areas. They've got really quick players who are great at breaking on the counter-attack. I mean, they were excellent in that sort of situation. You've got to feel that transition excellent. Just once they got to the final third, a couple wrong decisions, a couple mistakes in front of goal, it felt like they could have got a lot more. There was definitely 2 or 3 more goals, I think, in it for Leverkusen. So the fact that they drew this game, I think there'll be a little bit of frustration there.
I think so. I think for Bayern, it was the timing of the Goretzka goal. It felt like, obviously, Grimaldo's free kick, very late on the first half. That leveled it up, and then from that into the second, I think Leverkusen probably had the better of the chances. That Goretzka goal kind of changed the game, though, because... that is a succession of missed opportunities for Leverkusen, just for Bayern to do what Bayern do best and, take the lead. I think that changed the game, but obviously Leverkusen in the end did get something at least. Yeah. I think that's the main thing. That's what's giving everyone hope that Bayern can be toppled, because Leverkusen still got something from a game that they looked like they weren't going to get anything.
I don't know if we saw how Bayern really struggled to the end to the title at the end of the last season. If they have that sort of stutter again, Leverkusen keep up this consistency, there's every chance that we see the title going to Leverkusen rather than Munich for the first time in a very, very long time. Just one more sort of note then before we move on to other stuff. I mean, talking about the game, we're going to talk about the rest, other stuff. But I think one thing I've never really seen with Bayern before is them get completely opened up in the way that Leverkusen did. There was times where Bayern's defenders were sort of looking around at the sheer amount of players and just had no idea how to cover all the options. And I think that was really, really overwhelming. I think Leverkusen were really, really great in that sort of area. Huge gaps in Bayern's backline and midfield, and I think that's something Thomas Tuchel will be keen to address, because against a side who took their chances slightly better, I think they'd get exposed. But yeah, I think that it's sensational to see how Leverkusen, I mean, everyone bombed forwards. It's just this immense push forwards and suddenly create huge overloads, and that really helped them cause a lot of problems on the counter.
Yeah, I think, Tuchel's an interesting one, because I still don't think he's embedded at Bayern. And it's games like the Leverkusen game for me that bring back hints of his last few games at Chelsea. You've got really good, world-class defenders getting they look completely lost, and obviously Xabi Alonso did a brilliant job, and that didn't help either. But it's really strange, and I feel like the problem is for two. It's a problem, but it's also a good thing. I don't think we're seeing 100% of Thomas Tuchel's Bayern Munich. Now that team at full force probably pisses the league because it's Thomas Tuchel. But right now they look beatable. They don't look like they're just going to rock up every weekend, score 6 goals, go home. Harry Kane's going to break records, and that'll be job done.
Yeah, I mean, they've been slightly fortunate in the games they've had so far. They've had quite an easy fixture list, I would say. I mean, this was their first real challenge, and they did falter. Yeah. Potentially against Leipzig, against Union, against Dortmund in coming weeks and months. There's a chance they slip up a few more times. There's a chance that actually we get a really good title fight. I mean, we'll look at those other clubs in a moment when we speak about the Bundesliga as a whole. I want to really focus in on Leverkusen at the moment, though. And specifically Alonso, how highly do you rate Xabi Alonso as a manager?
I think he's looked really good. And the thing that interests me is that, obviously, especially in England, but overall, if you look at the last few kind of the new era of ex-players being managers, you look at them, it's been a bad run. It's your likes of your Lampards and your Gerrards again. Also, I know you've got the Xavi, who's done really well.
And Vincent Kompany.
And Vincent, I think it's... But he's definitely up there. Xabi Alonso's definitely up there with that Xavi, with that Kompany, that they've come in their first job, they're taking it to like a duck's water.
It's noticeable that all the names we've mentioned played under Pep Guardiola. Coincidence? I think not.
Until Rodri's, march up and down the touchline in 10 years.
I mean, I think Ilkay Gundogan, he's a big... Yeah. He loves football manager, apparently. I think he'll make a great coach one day.
Stones.
Potentially so. But yeah, I think Alonso has shown that he's got a real quality as a manager. And I think, as we've mentioned there, working under Pep does seem to bring that out in a player, and it makes sense because you have to have such an acute tactical understanding to play under Pep Guardiola because of the way he sets up his teams. You can't just rock up and expect to know exactly how to move, how to pass it, where your options are, that sort of stuff. Especially as a central midfielder, you dictate everything, and for Pep, that is everything. Dictating the tempo, dictating possession, then the match as a whole. That's everything for Pep Guardiola. So players like Xabi Alonso would have been key for him. Players like Xavi. Yeah. I think that's why they make such good coaches, because they are at the heart and soul of a Pep Guardiola system.
And I mean, that definitely helps. When you come into management, you can just take, it's very nice to be able to take what you've learned, put your own bit of spice on it, and then see what happens. Especially when you're taking that little bit of what you learned from Pep Guardiola. It's very interesting to see.
I'd also say, though, that the players that have been the most successful managers vary in terms of their career path. And it's really interesting because you've got like Xavi and Kompany, who played for a handful of clubs. I mean, Xavi only played for Barcelona until he moved to a bunch of Qatari retirement homes. Yeah. And Kompany only played for one side before he got his move to Man City. Maybe two, I can't really remember now off the top of my head. But Neither of them had very long career paths. Then you look at Alonso, who obviously played at Real Madrid and played at Manchester United. Not at Manchester United, sorry, at Bayern Munich. As we're talking about now, I'm already in the mood for Wednesday, the Man United Bayern game. But you look at that and the amount of different coaches he played under. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti at both clubs, I believe. Jose Mourinho as well. Obviously, the aforementioned Pep Guardiola. I think he probably played under Jupp Heynckes at some point as well, if he was at Bayern, because they hire him every 8 minutes. But yeah, I mean, that's not a bad list of coaches at all, is it? I mean, Vicente Del Bosque at the Spanish national side. So I think obviously, there's difference between coaches and then how you learn from them, but it shows that the best tacticians of the current era of managers, or the developing era of managers, I think is how we could refer to them, are from people like Pep.
Yeah,
because they're very good coaches. You learn a lot from them. But Alonso, then, where do you see him ending up? Where do you think he'll go? How long has he got by Leverkusen? Will they win anything?
Well, that's Leverkusen's problem, isn't it? You do feel like this is one season, because if you are any other football club on the planet and you see a manager beat Bayern Munich to the Bundesliga title, you're like, get me him now.
Yeah.
And yes, it's going to be interesting to see, because the managerial market really depends where gaps are going to open up, who's going to be available when, what teams are going to need a manager when. But if it falls right for Alonso, I think either way, he'll end up at a very, very top club, Premier League side.
I was going to say, do you think there's a potential return to Liverpool on the cards?
Yeah, definitely.
Faith in Klopp is faltering now. Is there a potential for him to come back at the end of the season?
I think there's plenty of options for him. You've got Klopp, who has been at Liverpool for a long time. Could he leave? Even Pep, could he leave at some point? We know Ten Hag's under pressure at United. I'm not saying he's going to leave now, but in the future, and then he's not Real Madrid.
Potentially. My one thing though with Xabi Alonso would be, don't rush that decision.
No.
Take all the time you want at Leverkusen, because they're the type of club where you can develop them quite far. They've got a great ability to bring in young talent and to really understand what the coach wants and go and find that in the market. We've seen the likes of Moussa Diaby, Kai Havertz come through in recent seasons, Leon Bailey. If you can continue that sort of talent pool, but hold on to a couple as well as you drive up the Bundesliga, as you start to fight for titles, he can really build a dynasty by Leverkusen. There's no reason he needs to jump ship immediately. Obviously, you'd expect there will be offers on the table, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bayern Munich is one of the clubs with an offer on the table.
Beat us the title, we're having
Well, exactly that. So I think that there's going to be offers for him. I hope he remains patient though and doesn't just jump at the first opportunity to go to a big club. I think he's got a good thing going at Leverkusen right now, and actually building up his experience, building up his ability at Leverkusen makes sense. It's a safe place to do it. It's a club where you will have a more of a margin of error than you will at a Real Madrid, a Liverpool, or Bayern Munich. They will be more understanding if you have a tough time. So I think for me, he's a fantastic coach. He's working with a great group of players right now. And I actually want to touch on those players as well before we move on. Because by Leverkusen, we've given a lot of praise to Xabi Alonso, but is their squad actually good enough to win the Bundesliga? What do you think?
I think to win the Bundesliga is a stretch, because you look at what I think it's a very, very good side, don't get me wrong, but I think look at the quality of Bayern. Look at the quality of Dortmund. Well, I mean,
I was going to say
Dortmund. Leipzig's recruitment
Dortmund
this year
their own problem, aren't they?
I think Leipzig's recruitment has really put them up there. They look a very good side, but I mean,
Union as well. I mean, they look quite strong.
It is a very strong Leverkusen side.
I was going to say, I mean, you just look at some of the sections of this squad and it's fantastic. I mean, the fact that they lost Moussa Diaby, a lot of people would have been looking at that as well. They're fucked. Yeah. But they went and signed Jonas Hoffmann, one of the most experienced Bundesliga players. They went and signed Nathan Teller, an exciting young winger from Southampton. This summer they also added Victor Boniface, who I think is an incredible talent, and we've seen that already. 4 goals in 4 games in the Bundesliga. He's developing really strong, and I actually think if he keeps up his current record, he could blast Bayer Leverkusen to the title in a similar way. Gerardo Becker blasted Union into Champions League last season. Yeah. Then you start to go further. I mean, even players like the fact that Patrick Schick and Adam Plozek aren't players we're immediately listing is phenomenal. I mean, that shows everything about this side. You then move back into the midfield where you've got Florian Wirtz, who I rate as one of the best young midfielders in the world.
I think his injury list has completely marred or completely tarred his how good he actually is. Obviously, no one's been able to see him play for the last few years.
The fact that the most amount of appearances made in a season is 29 is, and this is his
And that was
fifth,
what, 3-4 years ago?
his fifth season. He hasn't. Yeah, that was 2021.
Yes, so nearly 3 years.
The fact that he's had so little time, yet his market value is 74 million. Yet he's only 20 years old still. He's had 5 years of professional football and he's only 20 years old. It says everything really about how quality he is.
In very similar vein, we saw Kai Havertz come over to the Premier League and struggle.
The difference is Havertz didn't really fit the mould of a 10, sorry. Wirtz is very much that classic attacking midfielder, that David Silva mould. He's small, he's diminutive, but he's very agile and very good at moving the ball. A fantastic creator and an equally good finisher. Havertz is a good finisher, or at least was at his time at Leverkusen, and he was a good creator. But he doesn't fit that typical mould, does he? You don't tend to see a 6'2" guy playing attacking midfield. They tend to be the strikers. So Havertz is different to Florian Wirtz, and I think that is there is a clear, distinct difference.
Wirtz?
20.
I think I feel like because he's been around, people know his name for so long because he's always injured. Feels like whenever a player gets injured for a long time, you kind of forget how old they are and their age kind of carries on. And runs like he's only 20. End of this year, if he has a brilliant year, he's 21. His market value is over 100 million.
This is a stat that's going to make everyone feel a little bit ill at home, but he was 11 years old when they won the 2014 World Cup, when Germany won the 2014 World Cup. He was an 11-year-old.
That's crazy. He's a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if we count back to the last time that someone other than Bayern won the Bundesliga, again, he would have been a child.
When was that? When did someone other than Bayern win the Bundesliga? Actually, I'm going to have a look now because I'm intrigued. It was, I don't even know if Football will have the records. It was 2008-09. He would have been 6.
And now 14 years later.
He was born in 2003. So yeah, when it was crowned, when Wolfsburg were crowned champions, he would have been 6 years old.
Right.
That is insanity. But yeah, so it says a lot about how dominant Bayern have been.
Yeah.
That this guy's grown up
times that
only
one,
really
not sort of their perch. If Leverkusen asked to do it, he'll be the main man in it. For me.
I was going to say, so far this season, he has notched up a contribution in every match other than the Leverkusen game, other than the Bayern game. Even on international duty, he's putting green ratings in every single game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been incredible.
That's the Germany side that aren't very good.
Yeah, I mean, they lost 4-1 to Japan. He's still got an assist and notched up 7.3. Yeah. And a 2-1 win over France, he was also very decent. So he's an incredible talent. I think he's going to go to the very top. And if Leverkusen can get the best out of him this season and actually keep him fit for 38 matches, they're going to do so well.
Yeah.
Then you've got Ezequiel Palacios, who scored the penalty, obviously, at the weekend and is a really good player in general. Players like Timothy Fosu-Mensah. Granit Xhaka, I think, is one of the most underrated signings of the summer. You picked up an experienced Premier League central midfielder who is only 30 at, 15 million? That's a steal. That is an absolute steal.
He might have been rubbish at not rubbish.
That's his thing, yeah.
He might have been a bit aggressive at Arsenal, but done a
that's exactly what you want. Around this really young squad, you've got a natural leader in Granit Xhaka, someone they can aspire to be like, someone that can really get this group together when the times are tough. And I think that's such an inspired signing. You then move back to the defence. You've got young talents like Pierre Hincapié. You've got Edmund Tapsoba, Josip Stanisic, but you've also got in there Jonathan Tah with a bit of experience, Alex Grimaldo with a bit of experience, and someone we've not mentioned yet, but Jeremy Frimpong, who is one of the most exciting right wing backs in the world. Koeman's not too keen on him, but everyone else seems to be. Koeman's not usually my yardstick for measuring talent, but yeah, I think Frimpong, really exciting, and him overlapping and linking up with Hoffman on that right hand side has proven really strong so far this season. He's already got 1 goal and 3 assists in 4 matches. Incredible attacking right back. So yeah, Leverkusen look really good.
They do.
Early prediction: do you think they'll take the title, or are Bayern gonna do it again?
Because like Union last year, same position, looked very strong, were very strong, felt very strong. Fell away at the end of the year.
The one thing I will say, though, is that Union never had the immense talent.
No.
They did really well and they got big results, but they never had someone that you go, they're a world beater. they can notch up 40 goals and win you the league this season. They never had that. Becker did well, and he performed massively above expectations, but they never had a world beater. And I think that was the big difference there between Union last season and Leverkusen this season. Leverkusen have players who can put them in a position to win games. And actually, if we start to look at their fixture list, it looks quite manageable. They've got Heidenheim up next, promoted from the division below. They'll be keen to make an impression, but that should be a comfortable victory. Yeah. Then an away game to Mainz, another easy win, you'd think. Cologne after that should be a win. Wolfsburg will offer a challenge. Admittedly, that could be a loss, but if they want to plough on, they've got to be winning those games.
On top of that,
they don't play Dortmund until December. By that point, they could have a big gap. Oh, they do play Union in that time, but there's no Leipzig in there. There is a game against Freiburg, but that is at home. Yeah. It's a nice fixture list to start the season.
On top of that, the Europe isn't going to cause them much problems. Karabag,
Harken, and Mulder should be able to rotate and get easy.
Rotate round in that. Whereas Bayern, they've got to go to Manchester United and go.
Yeah, exactly. So potentially points to be made up there, and also the fact that they're doing so well, and they've not even got Patrick Schick fit. No, they've not even got Patrick Schick fit at the moment. They're not even using Adam Hlozek all that much. There's definitely still more to come from this Bayer Leverkusen side. That's the really exciting prospect.
I think even if Leverkusen aren't the ones to win it, this is the after last year. I think it'll be close, but I think this would be the biggest chance this year for someone to topple Bayern, even if it isn't Leverkusen.
Bayern are still Bayern.
They are still Bayern.
Should we talk about the rest of the league? Yeah. Because it's shaping up quite nicely. I think the next closest team, they're a point behind Bayern and Bayer Leverkusen. It's RB Leipzig, and a lot of people will be unhappy to see them right up there. But from a purely neutral perspective, their squad is strong.
Yeah, and I think they're in the same boat as Leverkusen. Obviously, the only difference is that Leverkusen have played Bayern and challenged Bayern on field.
Yeah.
Leipzig, they do what they do best, and every year they are always right up there until they start to play Bayern Munich. And until they start to play Bayern and Dortmund and even Union last year.
Well, they're going to get that in 2 weeks' time. 30th September, RB Leipzig versus Bayern Munich.
And that'll be their big test. Because they're really good at beating the bottom half of the league. But whenever it comes to the top half, they always get top.
They've got Gladbach next as well. So two big tests. Gladbach followed by Bayern.
They've played so far this year.
So they put 5 past Stuttgart, who are sat just below them in the table. They lost on the opener 3-2 to Leverkusen, which is sort of understandable. But if they win that, they're top of the league by 2 points at the moment. So they would be in a much nicer position. They then beat Union 3-0.
That's big.
That's very decent. And then they beat Augsburg 3-0.
I mean, I think Xavi Simons has looked magnificent.
I was about to say 2 words. Xavi Simons. That kid is going right to the top. He's one of the most exciting players in the world right now. Just got that move to PSG. 7 goal contributions in 4 matches. 3 goals, 4 assists.
Insane.
He is lighting up the Bundesliga.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, and forming a very good partnership with new signing Benjamin Šeško. 2 goals so far for him. If he can start to score more consistently, because they both came in the win against Union. If he can start to find that more consistently and actually get more consistent minutes, because they only played 26 minutes in their win against Augsburg. If they can start to give him loads of minutes, there's a good chance he'll do well this season. Obviously, they've still got Timo Werner, who's yet to find the back of the net yet this season. Louis Openda, who started really strong though, 3 goals, 1 assist for him. So they're looking good in attacking areas. Brilliant. They've not really had any problems losing Konrad Laimer. They seem to have made up for that in midfield. Obviously, bringing in Christoph Baumgartner, I believe. Yeah, they brought him in from Hoffenheim, and he's really solid in that deeper role. They've got a strong midfield. They seem to be coping with that. And obviously, Nicholas Seiwald, who just joined from the Salzburg side. So, I mean, the fact they can just... if they get to the halfway point in the season, they need someone. They'll just have a little look at Salzburg, see what's going on down there, bring in a couple of players. So that definitely helps. They've got a strong defence. They do have a slight problem with the fact that David Raum is out injured right now. He's looked really strong to start the season, but an apparent knock to him. Hopefully for their sake he's all right. But obviously coming off after 77 minutes in the most recent match. Great. If he's all right, though, he's looked brilliant as well. A goal and 2 assists so far. Looking very strong. So they look great. I mean, Stuttgart have started strong, but you don't really expect them to be at the sharp end. I mean, they lost to Leipzig. Other than that, big win. 5-0 over Freiburg. Very impressive, it has to be said.
Very random. They did lose 5-1 to Leipzig.
Yeah, but I do think in Cero Girassi, they've got a striker who can score a lot. 8 goals in 4 matches.
Yeah, that's pretty.
8 goals. That is ridiculous.
That's Haaland numbers.
Yeah, so he scored 2 in the opener against VfL Bochum. He then got 1 in the 5-1 loss to Leipzig, got another 2 against Freiburg, and then a hat-trick most recently against Mainz. Incredible form. And if he keeps up like that, well, they're going to win the league because he's going to score. He's scored 8 goals. He's averaging 2 goals a match. It's insanity. But yeah, I mean, for their sake, they'll be hoping he can keep that up. But yeah, so it's shaping up really nicely, the Bundesliga. I mean, the fact that there is a genuine challenge to Bayern this season, yet Dortmund are on 8 points so far, which they're only 2 points off. But
don't count them out, but they just don't. They never look like challenging them. Never.
Yeah, it's the fact that every game's been like a 1-goal margin.
The Freiburg goal, game at 2.
Cataclysmic in that. I mean, the fact that it took a Mats Hummels double.
Yeah.
It's never a great
and then
sign.
to Heidenheim and Bochum.
I mean, that's inexcusable, really, isn't it? You want to be fighting for the title. How are you drawing with Bochum and Heidenheim? They'd be top of the league. They should be top of the league. They're 2 easy victories they threw away.
Yeah.
Bochum should have been an easy win. Heidenheim should be an easy win. Throw them away. But yeah, speaking of Heidenheim, do you think they can stay out this season? I mean, 4 points from the opening 4 games. Currently sat in 11th.
Who knows?
It's gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
But they're doing all right. Obviously, they've got the longest serving manager in Bundesliga history, Josef Schmidt, 16 years at Heidenheim. He's done a fantastic job taking them up the table. I mean, fair play to him. Frank Schmidt, not Joseph. But what do you mean, bored?
16 years at one.
He started in the 3 league, or 4 league, I want to say.
I guess that's
and he's built them up to the Bundesliga. I mean,
that's good for him. Stay up.
Yeah, I don't think the same sort of success will follow the team that came up with them. Darmstadt, 1 point from the opening 4, and they've conceded 13 goals so far, the most of anyone in the league. So maybe in a bit of trouble.
Unlucky.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this season pans out. I'm sure we'll be covering some of the action on
We can hope and pray that Bayern Munich will be toppled this year.
Maybe so. Shall we turn our attention back to the Premier League?
We should, yes.
It's a league we're much more familiar with, and we've got some interesting questions. We're not going to talk about Chelsea. I'm bored. They're shit. There we go. We're not talking about them this week. If you want to go complain about Chelsea, get involved in the comments. Share your disgruntlements, and I may well reply. But cannot really be bothered to talk about it again. Instead, we're going to talk about how bad Manchester United are. To make ourselves feel better. So, United won, Brighton 3. Dear God, they were awful.
United folded.
But it was so predictable. Everyone I spoke to before that game, Brighton are going to win this. Brighton are going to win it comfortably. Yeah, United fans are like, we'll be fine, but they never really showed anything. I mean, Brighton were excellent. The fact that United had to be bailed out, really, by Hannibal Mejbri goals, their only goal of the match, says a lot. I do think that the Højlund goal being ruled off was harsh. And maybe ruled out, I think if that stands, maybe we'll get more of a game of it. But Brighton were impeccable. United was just so subpar and
collapsing against Arsenal, and then you're being torn apart in your own backyard by Brighton. I mean, obviously, we say it every week. Credit to De Zerbi, Brighton. They look brilliant. They are a magnificent team. Pascal Gross, same out Pascal Gross and Old Trafford.
Yeah,
it's different.
Just a quick question out there: are Brighton serious contenders for the title?
Possibly. Again, the question comes similar to what it is in the Bundesliga: can they beat City when it comes to it?
The problem for them is that they absolutely threw it away with a 3-1 loss to West Ham. Without that, they've got a perfect record so far, and they're right up there. But, I mean, that didn't help them, the fact that they are already now 3 points off Manchester City, and obviously behind the likes of Arsenal, Tottenham and Liverpool. But I think they are generally up there right now.
Pretty much clear everyone.
2 points clear of everyone. 2 points ahead of Tottenham because Tottenham drew to Brentford, 2 points ahead of Liverpool because they drew at Chelsea, and 2 points ahead of Arsenal because they drew at Fulham. So that's good.
So, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
And Brighton lost to West Ham.
Yeah.
So, says it all really about the Premier League this season. Hopefully, though, someone can fight City.
Yeah.
At some point. But it's not looking too likely. I mean, the next games are Forest, Wolves, then Arsenal and Brighton. Maybe that.
The big one.
The opening's part of October.
United as well.
Yeah, that's a horrible October for them, really. All of October is horrendous.
They got to lose every game.
Yeah, really. If we want to see someone other than them. Oh, well, then they play Chelsea and Liverpool in November. So, and Tottenham in December. It's a horrible run, really, for City.
Maybe they lose.
Maybe everyone in FPL needs to bench Haaland.
They'll probably win every single game apart from that Bournemouth game. They'll draw the Bournemouth game. But I mean, United, wow. How bad are they?
Well, I was going to ask, I mean, United are clearly terrible on the pitch. I want to talk about Erik Ten Hag today, though. Do you think that Ten Hag's in trouble?
I honestly don't know, because it is such a weird problem. Because all the main forefront of United complaining is Gary Neville hating the Glazers.
I mean, I would say we are close to crisis at Manchester United.
Yeah,
I think that they are very much on a knife edge right now, and I think if one more thing happens, it's all going to explode. I mean, how this club is still like a thing at the moment is mental. There's so much.
The Glazers and the fans and Ten Hag and the performances, something's got to give. And I feel for Ten Hag is that the Glazers might feel that their escape route is Ten Hag.
Yeah, I feel for him because I think he's a really good manager, but for whatever reason, the tactics haven't really worked this season. I don't think the off-field stuff has helped. The fact that they are constantly linked with... I mean, the Glazers can't decide whether they want to actually sell the club or not. Then you've got all the problems off the pitch. I mean, we've spoken in detail about Mason Greenwood and Anthony, and now Sancho, of course, as well. I mean, very different situations.
I think
make that very clear.
Sancho, obviously the other two are kind of cut and dry. The Sancho one feels like it was made a lot bigger than it needed to be by everyone involved. Why it wasn't dealt with in-house, I do not know. Because now everyone, they've just, what's the phrase? They've just hung their...
Blown out of proportion?
They've hung their dirty laundry out for everyone to see.
They've stuck their spotty bloomers out on the front fence. I mean, it's baffling to me. One, I don't know how Ten Hag thought the best... You know what Jadon Sancho needs right now? He needs me to go and slag off his effort in the media. That'll raise his confidence. And then... I think Sancho probably could have dealt with that better. He probably could have just gone out a word with him.
What I don't
takes to social media and it blows up again. Now he's training with the under-21s and because he refused to apologise to Ten Hag. It's just a shit show.
But for me,
it's a complete...
when they first joined the club, they were best mates, and Ten Hag let him take a little break. Let him take a break so he could, get himself together and sort himself out and make sure he's all right.
I think it's quite clear that Sancho is struggling a lot.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be really cautious when speaking about him because there's been a lot of hate directed his way. I think a lot of Manchester United fans are losing patience right now. And I think we need to remember that while he is a footballer, I don't think the fact that he earns 250 grand a week means we should completely neglect his mental health. He's going to be struggling. The weight of the world was on his shoulders. He made the move from Borussia Dortmund to Manchester United. Since then, he's gone through the end of the Oli era. He's gone through Ranić, which is the most batshit crazy era.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of shit.
Yeah, and now the Ten Hag era, where he's never really been first choice. Ten Hag went and signed Anthony, who, by the way,
he has to sit
never
there
really rated him.
Fidget spinner play with him for 90 minutes.
It just feels like if Ten Hag really nurtured Jadon Sancho, he could get the best out of him. We know there's a problem with Sancho. There's always been a problem with Sancho's attitude. And I think that is difficult to work with. He's always been renowned for being quite late to, often late to training and stuff, which is inexcusable to a certain extent. You're a professional footballer. The minimum expectation is that you turn up to training on time.
Yeah.
But I think if you cut him some slack, cut him some leeway, really work close with Jadon Sancho, he's an exceptional footballer. And there is still a lot of promise there. I don't know if Ten Hag's the right man to bring it out of him. But I don't think that's a reason to completely bin him off. I think he deserves time. He did well with the side last season. But what does Ten Hag have to achieve this season to stay at Man United?
First, he's going to kick out the arse. Because, again, there's so many factors. They've got to be top four.
Yeah.
They've got to be top four, but eventually they're going to look at it and go, why are we not challenging Manchester City?
The biggest problem for every Premier League side now is this: you've got to be top four or you've failed. But when there's 8 teams competing for 4 spots, that just doesn't work. So as soon as you see a Bournemouth or a Newcastle get up there where the expectation isn't that, you've got loads of clubs who've either got to sack their manager because they've not done well enough or admit that maybe they can't compete for top 4 every year.
But the next step up from getting top 4 is winning the league, and no one's in that same chapter as Manchester City.
That's the thing. United last season was good. United looked at last season and gone, we were in the shit with Ranić and all that absolute bollocks in the season before. They brought in Erik Ten Hag. Last season was good. Bit of silverware, the Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
FA Cup final, yes, they probably should have given a better account of themselves there, but City were unplayable throughout the season and on the day. Yeah, probably so. And then you've got the fact they managed to get back into the Champions League.
Yeah.
Those are all really crucial things for Manchester United. But this season, the expectation would have been they went out in the summer and added a few players. Rasmus Højlund, a fantastic young striker, and I think he looked very dangerous on his first start against Brighton. They added Andre Onana, one of the best goalkeepers in the world last season. Mason Mount, one of the most promising young British talents in the world right now. They added, I think there's one other signing I'm completely forgetting. Sofian Amrabat, of course, in defensive midfield, secures them a little bit there. So they've splashed a lot of cash this summer. And while they may not have done everything, they've not gone and signed another centre-half so they don't have to ever play Harry Maguire. They've not moved on Maguire. They have brought in Johnny Evans and stuff like that.
Evans, though.
I agree. That is a shortcoming and a failure on the transfer department there. But if you're telling me that starting 11 isn't good enough to compete for the league, or isn't good enough to get up there, the amount of money they spent in the last summer without really selling anything, they put a lot of money in. The expectation is they should be fighting right up there, and if not first, second.
But also, I think Ten Hag's problem is that it has not been easy. That's from whenever something's gone wrong for United, it's got worse. They drew to Tottenham. They lost to Tottenham.
Yeah,
lost to Tottenham. They thought, okay, we'll bounce that next week. Lost to Arsenal. Oh, we'll bounce that next week. Brighton. Then they've got Bayern Munich tonight.
Yeah, are they? Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, when this goes out,
Harry Kane could score 7.
Yeah.
And that's their problem. They haven't. It's been a really bad run of games, so I think we have to take a little bit of that into account. But they've had the same start of the season as Chelsea. And Chelsea are a abomination.
Obviously a win over Forest sandwich in there, but they did go 2-0 down after just 4 minutes in that one, and that easily could have been another loss. And they were crap against Wolves.
Yeah.
They could have easily lost every match so far this season, the first 5. They were very lucky in the games they won against poor opposition, it has to be said. And then they've been beaten by teams they should be beaten by, really. Teams that are above them in the league.
A guy called Craig, can't remember his surname. I think he's on Talk Sport or something. But he was saying,
I think everyone on Talk Sport is called Craig.
But as much as Ten Hag complained about the Højlund goal being ruled off on the weekend, complained about the Garnacho goal against Arsenal, and said that Højlund had a penalty in that Arsenal game, and the complaint about the added time. But then if you add together the fact that they should have had a penalty given against them at Wolves, and the fact they went 2-0 down to that Forest side, if those two things happen, as much as he has the excuses, if those two things happen, they're on no points.
Yeah.
And they're bottom of the league. And they're on a worse start season than Luton Town.
Yeah, pretty much the same. But I feel like the Ten Hag seems to be lost right now.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the fact that he doesn't seem to understand how to change his tactic. Right now, he's very set in wanting this current evolution of his tactic to work. This sort of player inverting, getting that 3-2-4-1 type thing that City have. The issue is that the personnel he's got doesn't really work. Mount and Fernandes have both had difficult starts to the campaign. Rashford hasn't been firing. They've only just got Højlund back. There's been a lot of issues. There's been a lot of he's got loads of excuses to use. But when does he have to look in the mirror and go, maybe we need to change something here. Maybe we need a new evolution. Maybe the tactic needs an overhaul. When does that sort of throw everything out the window and start again happen?
The problem is, it's a mix of like the Arsenal game, falling asleep or it's been passed the ball around.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think you add on that they're not playing very good football, and then you add in the individual errors to their equation, and it's just horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't help. I look at all stages of their play at the moment and just go, there's so much you can improve. Build up. They're too slow. They constantly lose possession because they don't move the ball quick enough. And they constantly get caught out. Transition. Their transition is horrendous. Just kick it long, everyone run after it and we'll see what happens. That's not transition. Then they can't move the ball on the floor from the back to the front of the pitch. They just can't do that. from all the evidence this season.
Yeah.
It's been, we'll try and play out from the back. When that goes to shit, we'll kick it to Onana, and then we'll smack it long, and then we're all going to run after it. Yeah. It's not NFL.
No.
You're not trying to score field goals.
Down, we have a bloody Hail Mary.
Rashford's going to run until he gets fouled. It's just...
And then all of that happens, means that they're 0-0.
And then if they do get in the final third, they don't do anything with that anyway.
Which means that we're drawing the game 0-0, and then Maguire and Evans will play Just Dance, and they'll concede.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work to do at Manchester United right now. It feels like, I mean, Bayern's going to be an interesting tell. I can't wait for it. Really.
Tell could score 3.
Right, but off the bench.
And then, if they do lose that game, and it would be so United to go and win it, but that's not going to happen. But it's away as well, isn't it, in Munich?
It is.
They're going to Munich.
Yes.
Speaking
of which, join us live on TFC Live.
Yes,
it could be a great stream.
Thanks everyone who joined us yesterday.
Yeah, indeed. But we've not even done it yet, but we know you loved it. All 3 million of you.
That is as big of a scoreline as we're thinking it is.
Yeah.
Burnley away at the weekend.
Company might fancy himself. I mean, we're recording right now during the Burnley match. Burnley are 1-0 up. If they can see that out, bit of confidence in the side.
No, big win for Burnley. And Forest, we're thinking we were rubbish. They're down.
Yeah, but equally though, Forest are losing right now. They would still be above Manchester United in the table. Even if they conceded another 2, they would still be above Manchester United in the table.
The fact that Manchester United have done as bad as Chelsea, and Chelsea is like...
Well, they're a point ahead.
A bomb's just gone off and at the football club, and they're trying to pick up every single little fragment that needs repairing. And United, who are meant to be all high and mighty because they're winning Carabao Cups and they're getting top 4, they're in the same boat. And that Chelsea team has been... That's the problem. I feel like for Chelsea, it was a massive roller coaster of a year last year. For United, it's been a massive roller coaster for the last 4 years.
The big difference between the two is that Chelsea have played just Liverpool so far. United have already faced Tottenham, Arsenal and Liverpool.
But where's the confidence going to come?
United, it's this next run, really. I would say they've got to beat Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United before they play City on the 29th of October. My birthday.
And if they don't beat anyone, that's a cricket score. Because I honestly don't see them conceding less than 3 tonight. I honestly can't. And I mean, they've got a pretty... I did see that they can field a whole 11 of injured / absent players. To which I feel like that's a bit... I can't remember where I saw it, but that's cheating because Anthony and Sancho saying that absent 11, not injuries. It's kind of... And that's not Ten Hag.
Still, I was going to say, still on, Ten Hag. For Ten Hag, they are absences, really. But...
Still, the players they've got should be good enough to win that too.
I like your comment of I can't see them conceding less than 3 tonight. Shall we didn't do any predictions? We did plan to do Champions League predictions, just completely forgot to do that. Very busy weekend, but plan to do that for Monday. Maybe we'll do that in a couple of weeks' time for the second round of fixtures. So it feels like we've completely missed the first one now, but I think it's that. Well, we're getting very close to the end of this podcast. Anything else you want to touch on before we get into FPL?
I can't think of something.
No, okay, fantastic then. Shall we talk about Fantasy Premier League?
No, because it was a horrific weekend, but I think it was a horrific weekend for everyone.
I was going to say, I think I've done well. I've got green arrows across the board. Unless everyone's got Zeki Amdouni, I think I'm in a good spot right now.
I mean, so the game hasn't finished yet, but it's Burnley Forest.
But, I mean...
Everyone's got Matt Turner, he conceded.
Yeah. I was going to say, just clicking on some of the top scores in our league at the minute, nobody's got any Forest or Burnley players. So I think we're all right to talk about that.
It's a load of red arrows for me this weekend.
Yeah, but you were higher than me, obviously, so your safety would have been higher as well.
Yeah, I've still got players to be subbed in as well because Sutan didn't play for some reason.
That could hurt me a lot with the subs and stuff because at the moment I'm green arrows. I'm looking great. But how many did you score?
Well, we're on 41 once Ben Mee gets subbed in. But I mean, Vicario losing his clean sheet to Sheffield United, I'm throwing hands.
Oh yeah, I was going to say I had the same thing.
Chilwell didn't start and then came on and got booked, so he got nothing. Silva kept a clean sheet, which was big. Asupian didn't play for whatever reason. And then apart from Saka on 6, my whole midfield blanked, including me. When Brighton went 3-1, I thought Meaton might have done something. Brentford, they had Newcastle, and was a bit of a gamble. Maddison and Sheffield United, I thought he might like score 3 and get 2 assists. No.
I was considering captaining him, so I dodged an absolute bullet.
And Foden and Sam did nothing else gamble. I was bailed out this week by Ollie Watkins 5 and Haaland 12.
It was a low scoring week across the board. The fact that Haaland got 1 goal, nobody's midfielder scored anything. Rashford did nothing, Bruno did nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing. Forest just levelled up, by the way, so that's interesting. Burnley clean sheet wiped as well, which is a positive, because some people just have like Jordan Bayer.
Tavares gets subbed on in the 50-odd minute. Magic happens.
Magic has happened. I got 45 this week. Pretty pleased with that. The average is 40. My safety rank at the moment is 40 or 45. So I think that'll probably go up tonight, though, after the Forest game and the subs and stuff. But I should still be all right. I got 6 from Pope. Brought him in this week for Onana. Very happy with that decision because Onana would have got minus points. I then had Saliba and Gusto, both 6 points there. Strong defensive display. Same about Destiny Udogie because could have been high potential. And the fact he's got Arsenal and Liverpool next 2 weeks, he is going to be benched. And I mean, Saliba was also on for bonus points at the last minute, and I think he cleared it out of play, or he did something to get minus on the bonus point system, and cost him a bonus point there. So that was slightly frustrating. Foden blanking, Sterling blanking, Martinelli blanking again. I mean, he scored and that was ruled out, frustratingly for me. Madison blanking, not great. Jackson blanking as well. So everyone blanking pretty much. Saka got a goal. Haaland captain 12. Not too bad in that front, but definitely a lot that could have been done. Yeah, it's a frustrating game week across the board.
In terms of...
And I bench out Pedro. He scored 7. No, that's not fun.
In terms of our league, I have dropped to 67th.
I'm up to 119th.
Well done.
Buzzing. But shall we talk about who's top of the league?
I mean, it feels like all the highest scores obviously jumped to the front because everyone else had a stinker.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm sure we'll scroll through and find somebody with a decent score in a minute. But we've got here, top of the league now is Insikak Udombana. Apologies if I pronounced your name wrong. It's a difficult name to pronounce, to be honest. The team name is Snow Kids, and looking at their side, 60 points from this game week then. Going to be one of the highest we find, I reckon. They had Salah 10, Diaby 5, Saka 6, Julian Alvarez 9. There's been a player I've seen a lot in good teams. Captain for Haaland as well. Then Gabriel Gusto bringing in decent points. Not a bad game week, and they've moved to the top of the league.
Yep.
Have you had anything higher than 60? I've had 68 at 43rd.
73
I'll do your 73. I'll see if I find it.
Craw. With the manager, Danny Mensah.
Not Craw.
73 points. This is a bit of a random one as well. Haaland captain. They had João Pedro. Bernardo Silva in midfield. That's a bit of a rogue one. Not many people have him. Salah got 10. They also had Robertson, who obviously scored. And a clean sheet for Gusto and a goal, an assist for Saka.
I mean, very decent.
Yeah, decent. 73, one of the highest. I think we'll see.
I was going to say, I've got here a 69. From Sam Imatoka, who must have predicted their score because their team name is Blue Wax Bill 69. In their squad, they've got Ben White 7 points. They've got Saka 6 points. Robertson 11, Salah 10. Then they've got Edouard 8, Alvarez 9, and 12 for Captain Haaland. So maybe if they're captain someone else, they'd be looking at one of the highest game weeks in the entire game week. But yeah, just trying to scroll through and see if there's anything else. Anyone else catching the eye?
Found to be the biggest we found.
I reckon so. Not many doing well in our league this week.
Overall, there was 102, and they used the bench boost. They're a very random team. Who else got Douglas Luiz?
I was going to say...
He's on penalties now, isn't he? So I suppose...
Yeah, I know, but who has Douglas Luiz?
Who
goes, I'm doing FPL now, I'll pick Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It feels like it must be one of those burner teams, like the people that make like 100 and do AI. I mean, that's just a bit pointless, but...
It was a bit of a random week. Brighton did really well, but the likes of Meatma didn't do much. And even United's goal, for example, was scored by Hannibal Medjugorje. Who's got him? Absolutely nobody.
Not me.
Not me either.
I think it was at 0.1%.
But
if you're part of that 0.1%, by the way.
Congratulations.
Fairs.
Well, I'm going to bounce back next week.
Sure, love the confidence. Taiwan Awoniyi has just got an assist, so that might have an impact on FPL. But yeah, we're going to go now. By the time this goes out, Forest might win 5-1. We don't know. So stay tuned. In terms of streams this week, you've already watched our live stream of AC Milan Newcastle, where Harry wasn't here.
No, I wasn't.
But it was a great game, wasn't it?
I'm sure it was. It was
Loads
really
of
weird.
action. Loads of action happened. Great stuff. Then, if you want to join us tonight for more Champions League action, it's Bayern Munich versus Manchester United.
Cricket score.
It's going to be a cricket score. Then this weekend, we bring you Tottenham-Liverpool, the North London derby on Sunday. It's a 2:00 kickoff. It's going to be warm, probably, or rainy. We don't know. It's the UK. But should be a good time in the studio either way.
Who is it?
North London derby.
Okay, you said Tottenham Liverpool.
Oh, and Tottenham Arsenal.
I was very confused. Tottenham Liverpool is now a North London derby.
Tottenham Liverpool is the week after. You can join us for that one as well. Join us for all the streams.
Or you won't know and you have to guess which one's which.
Yeah.
Which one's North London derby, which one's Tottenham Liverpool.
Indeed.
You decide.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know our streaming schedule, just look for whatever the best game is, or join the Discord. You can find out there. We'll probably just mention
There's
it.
tweets, there's notifications, there's FPL, there's all sorts.
Loads to get involved. And if you haven't joined our UCL Fantasy League yet, it's too late, but join anyway and you can join for Game Week 2. I can't remember the code off by heart.
You can find
it somewhere.
It's a very long code to remember off by heart.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I was going to say, it is in the community tab though on YouTube, so if you want to find
it. Socials, you can follow us on there.
Indeed. But I think that's everything for this week. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here. Get involved in the comments. Say hi, say something funny. I don't mind. Just something.
Just put, if you're at this point in the video, just put Manchester United are horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very vague sentence that anyone could say, but trust me, it's worth it.
Yeah, let's just comment it, despite the fact they've not got to this point in the video.
It was 30 seconds.
But yeah, there's everything for today. If you are listening on Spotify as well, thank you guys so much. You're the unsung heroes. We can't see you as we can.
I mean, the numbers on Spotify, blimey, soaring.
Yeah, it seems to be going up every week. More and more people are following, and we appreciate that loads. If you are on Spotify, the best way to sort of share it out is just to share the podcast. You can share the podcast with your mates. You can share it on your socials. It helps us out more than you guys can imagine. We're trying to grow the platform here. With if you like the stuff we do, then there's probably going to be someone else out there that also likes the stuff we do. So share it with them and spread the words. Get more people involved as the community grows. But that's everything for this week then, guys. We've rambled a lot at the end here, as we tend to do. That is everything for this week. Thank you guys very, very much for watching or listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.